So yeah, Jules, I just wanted to just have a conversation about where I am because I think that's a little more raw and accurate.
Yeah.
I don't want people to think that all our stuff is highly polished. In fact, it's not that highly polished. But
Yeah.
the reason I'm doing this whole mental health thing, I started life as a scientist and engineer, and I did that for 20 plus years in Silicon Valley, working on products, like apps. I actually worked on Microsoft Office and Yahoo Messenger and some other enterprise stuff you've probably not heard of. And I was just the tech guy. And the thing that got me into mental health is just trying to get healthy, right? Struggling with my own mental health issues. And especially after my dad passed and he had chronic depression as well. And when he died at 68, which is really young, in fact, his parents outlasted him by over a decade. I was like, well, I don't want to end up like that. I don't want to die in my 60s. And I've got to figure this out. I had my own journey of figuring out my own mental health and working through my past traumas and things like that. And, I've been in a fairly good place, but I just have that, I guess, brain chemistry where, I still struggle. I still have depression tendencies. And I'm on meds, and I've gone off my meds a few times, hopeful that, like, oh, I don't need these anymore. I often use the analogy that meds are like an umbrella. It's like, if it doesn't rain for 6 months and you're like, well, I don't need this anymore, the rain is coming. And taking my meds is essentially like carrying an umbrella with me in places where it's inevitably going to rain. But even with that, even with all the things, all my self-awareness and all my work and my meds, I still struggle. And I have seasonal affective disorder. I've always felt worse, especially in the fall, especially as the light starts to get lower here in the States and it gets darker and colder and the leaves fall off the trees. I know that's a factor. It's probably not the only factor, but that's sort of where I am now, is I've just been struggling the last, I'd say, week or two. I don't know how long it's been. These things sneak up on you, but I definitely have noticed it this last week. I don't have the resilience that I normally do. Like when like small things feel big to me, small setbacks feel big.
Yeah.
And I just don't have the motivation to do a lot of the things I want to do, including working on this podcast, which I'm very passionate about. But the last one I put out was in August. I tended to do one a month. I missed September. Yeah. And at this rate, I'm missing October too. I'll get one out soon. Like it's almost done. But it's just it's been hard, and it's also hard in this state not to be critical and judgmental. You know how this goes, but you can't talk or think or rationalize your way out of how your body feels. And I'm trying to just give myself that grace of like, this is just where I am, and I know I'll get through it, but I'm just in a spot now where I'm not at my best.
I appreciate your vulnerability, and I just want to thank you for sharing this with me. You're one of the few people in my life who has the strength to be, as a man, I think women do this much easier than men do, but you are able to share about yourself. And the way you share about yourself is it's complex and it's nuanced and it's with deep understanding of yourself. But I think what I really heard too is just, and I think that this is why we're doing this, why we're opening this up to people, is it's how your body feels. It's not something you can control, right? This is like something that you mitigate or you understand, like this taking medication as an umbrella for the rain, right? And being ready, but it's going to happen and you're going to have to navigate this. And it's not anything you've done wrong. There's all these pejorative conversations around mental health and these kind of old school ways of thinking about things, like somehow it's somebody's fault, or if you just kind of pulled yourself up and you just did it a certain way, or you just get outside and go for a walk. And not to say you shouldn't do all those things, but I think there's an honest conversation around just how we feel, and that it's a state of being. And so for you to share that with me and then share it with other people, I think is really important and brave. So thank you, Dave.
I appreciate that. I don't consider myself very outgoing or someone who wants to share these things.
Right.
The only reason I'm doing it is because I feel like it is going to make the world a better place if people can see or hear folks like me sharing about their struggles. There's one particular story that I can't get out of my head, and it was this black woman from New York. She was a lawyer. She was, I don't know, about 30, and she killed herself. She like jumped out of a top floor of a building. And it was one of these stories where you look at her from the outside and you're like, God, she made it. You know, she's this minority, and she was able to go to school and go to law school and become a lawyer. And I think she was even like a beauty pageant winner, like in her youth. So she was gorgeous. And I don't fault her. Like, it's like society.
Yeah.
I think we have a broken society, a society that values GDP and growth and the wealth of the nation over the well-being of its citizens. The reason I bring up her story is because I kind of see myself in that. Like, I'm not a minority, but I've got even more going for me, right? I'm this tall white guy. I'm smart. I came from a middle-class family. I went to University of Michigan in engineering. I went to Stanford, computer science, master's. I'm in that caliber. And it, from the outside, it's like, what? There's that Gary Gulman quote.
I grew up in the 70s, and the only antidepressants we had access to was Snap Out of It and What Have You Got to Be Depressed About? That was the second leading brand of antidepressant.
What the fuck do you have to be depressed about?
Dave.
Yeah, what
No,
the fuck
no.
do I have to be depressed about? I've got so much going for me, but I am. That's the thing, I am.
Yeah.
I've been low. The earliest I remember vocalizing it was I was in high school, and I had a track coach who I felt, I guess, comfortable enough to open up to him, saying, I think I've got mononucleosis because I just feel lethargic all the time. Sadly, he responded like, who have you been kissing? Because it's this thing known as like the kissing disease. Like, you pass it along by kissing other people.
You had one job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going back to that listening, how to be a good listener. I don't fault him. He's a guy. He's in the Midwest. He's coaching, a team of, this was cross country, so runners,
Yeah.
so it's not like football, but still.
Cross country.
Yeah, it's a good sport for us introverts. Yeah, cross country is a great introvert sport because you just go out there and you're by yourself and you're just running by yourself. Even if you're running with a group of people, you're not required to talk because you're running fast and so it's a good way to sort of like be in connection with other people while not really having to be connected to other people. There's this musician who got big online. His name's Jonathan Colton, and he's a fantastic songwriter. But he really accumulated an audience of a lot of people like me, introverts, people who are kind of nerdy, a little science fiction, a lot of cosplay in there, just people who are alternative, people who probably got picked on in school.
Yeah.
And he started doing these cruises where he would like rent out a cruise ship and he'd bring friends and they do a week of entertainment. And I went on 4 of these. Every cruise, the last night before we get off the next morning, they would have a big party on the top deck where the pool is and, drinks and dancing and whatever. And, even though these folks are introverts, they've spent a week together, they've done things together, and you come with friends and family too. And so you're already connected with them. We can socialize, and we were, but there was this one person I remember who was just sitting on the deck on his phone, like curled in a ball on a chair, like no one around him. And the instant judgment is, what the fuck are you doing here? Like, you're at a party, you're on your phone, like, why are you even here?
Right.
And then I realized it's like he wants to be connected.
Yeah.
This is his way of being connected. He's at the party, right?
Yeah.
So I have nothing but, I have a lot of respect for that. Like, to know that you want to be connected with others, but you don't know how to like have a conversation, make eye contact, whatever.
Yeah.
But you're there. You're making an effort. Kid's doing his best. So clearly, gets me choked up.
Oh, Dave, thank you. And younger versions of me, and still to this day, I struggle with being extroverted. I've gotten pretty good at faking it, and sometimes I really do feel like I'm in the flow. But yeah, when you describe that person at the party, just to be present, but doesn't know how quite to fully be there, that resonates with me. I think those of us who experience, trauma or just ways of being when we were younger that at least for me, I spent a lot of time being afraid or scared of people in my family or around me in the community. And it left me not feeling comfortable in social spaces getting older. And I just imagine that person who feels that way for some reason doesn't feel comfortable, and now that I'm in a place in my life where I feel more comfortable, not 100%, and more confident, but not 100%, just your vulnerability and showing the emotion you're showing is the heart from which we want to do this, how we want to do things and how we share about things. We don't want anybody to feel completely alone, because you're not, right? And I think that's the point. And if you're brave enough to show up to one of those big events and just be present, no one should judge that. That should be treated with tenderness and braveness. That's the kind of compassion I hope for men especially to have more of towards each other. If we see someone struggling, maybe I could make eye contact with you and nod at you and smile, or just kind of test to see, hey, would you want to engage? I'm a safe person, but if you don't want to engage, that's okay. But it's reaching out to each other and holding each other a little bit. I just really appreciate what now you're going to choke me up, because I just think that the more we would do that for each other. I love to surf, right? And I go surfing, and surfing is this very competitive, macho, alpha environment. The other day, someone decided to start screaming at me, yelling at me, and saying a bunch of horrible stuff. I decided to meet that with gentleness and compassion. And as I looked at this person and we had this recognition of he knew who I was and he was really sorry, he realized that he was doing it, I think, out of some fear or worry of being picked on, or that something would. And I just realized there was just a vulnerability there. I think, like you sharing your emotions today, Dave, I just really appreciate. I think that just shows a lot of realness that I've always appreciated about you as well, and that you're willing to do that. It means a lot to me, and I hope it means a lot to people watching this, that it's real, right? We're not doing this for the money. We're not doing this to try to get our names out there. We're doing this because we want people to understand that this is important. Vulnerability is important. Sharing is important. So yeah, I just appreciate you.
Yeah. I still have this very crude breakdown of people in the world. There's people who you can't open up with. They don't know how to have these vulnerable conversations. They're not comfortable with you being vulnerable. And then there are people who are. Right. And it sounds like you and I grew up in families of that first, where they're just not really comfortable with their emotions. They don't know what they're doing. They're doing their best, but they're just ignorant about these things because they never learned them from their parents, and this generational trauma. Yeah. And I want to have compassion for those people, but I also want people to know that that's not the whole world. Yeah. Like, if you're in this little microcosm, if you're in a family where people don't know how to talk about their emotions, or they think, oh, it's okay to ridicule someone, and then when they get upset, oh, I was just joking, can't you take a joke? It's normal out there, and a lot of people are growing up in those households. But there are people out there, in fact, there's more kind, gentle people out there than there are people who are like that. The statistics are like at least 60-40, maybe more. So don't give up hope, and find the people out there you can open up to. It sounds like, Jules, you grew up in that environment. You're like, okay, this is how you are in the world. This is how you should be in the world. And you test those things out, but they don't feel good inside. Mm-mm. And the people who make it past are like, they finally honor those feelings. They're like, no, I need to do it a different way. I don't want to keep doing it this way. Yeah. And that's a hard leap to make, from shut down your emotions to be open. But it can be done. We both have done it, and there's more and more people who have done it who are talking about it, and that's the important thing. Is then you realize, oh wait, it's a lot more people than I might have thought who are out there who are making this leap from closed to open.
I think sometimes when people talk about, oh, just share your feelings, or just find someone to talk to, but that it's not simple. It doesn't actually feel good when you're doing it. It can feel pretty scary, because if you've had past experiences where you were taught not to share, or that sharing could be dangerous for any number of reasons, then in the back of your mind, you're going to be like, I shouldn't be doing this. Remember what happened when you did this 10 years ago, or when you did this with this person? But you have to consciously tell yourself and willfully, practice within reason, with safety, and where you feel comfortable. But it might not feel good. I think about this a lot. I happen to work with folks who do research on like mental health and brain science. And I was doing a presentation with a colleague at this big conference. And she said, did you realize when you do a presentation, our brains put out the chemicals basically warning you you're going to die? I was laughing like, wow, that's really intense. Thanks for that right before we do this presentation. But it somehow stuck in my brain. And I realized that what happens for a lot of people before they share is they get that same feeling of like, hold on, this isn't good, like this self-protection mechanism. And There's not anything wrong with that. I think it's our brains trying to take care of us, but where we can say to ourselves, check the facts, right? Like, okay, this person's sitting here, they're looking at me. By all means and account, I've assessed them to be safe. They say, no, let's go ahead and share all the ways that they're signaling to you, share with me. And then we do our best to be brave, right? And we're gentle with ourselves. If our voice cracks or we say the wrong thing, I mean, I'm the master of flipping words or stumbling or sweating through my shirt, So it's okay, and I think that's what we're trying to highlight and share is even practicing it right now, Dave, so I just appreciate that you came up with this idea to just do this for the audience and for people who are watching. Thank you. But thank you, Dave, for being willing to share and be open today about how you're feeling. It means a lot to me as your friend. And I think people watching this who maybe just, hey guys, you talk a lot about what you should do. Do you actually do it? And yeah, we do.
What you said reminded me assess the situation, but more to the point for me is, have I tried to open up to this person before? Because we can create a model in our minds of, well, opening up to all people is going to be like this. Especially, again, if you grew up in a family, people close to you, you don't know how to open up to them. They don't know how to open up. Nothing's been modeled for you. So clearly, don't do it with them. But if you are in front of someone new, especially someone who is ostensibly someone trained in listening skills or mental health or therapist or someone in that space, maybe that can help remind you, okay, this is a safer person. I can do something different with this person and expect a different outcome. Because I think for me, I would get into the therapist's office and just not say anything, just sit there, because I've never opened up and talked about my emotions before. I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
And they're the expert. I'm looking for them to lead. I'm looking for them to take the reins and give me structure. How do I do this? But then they're taught not to. And so then it's just this really awkward situation where they're just waiting for me to say something and I'm just waiting for them to say something. I mean, minutes go by. So, a better professional would be like, okay, I can see that, you're not used to this and that's okay. And, so here's generally what, so you just talk about how you're feeling or just talk about what's going on with you.
Yeah.
And maybe even a little self-disclosure. This is the other thing about professionals. I just wish that they weren't so walled off where they could be like, you know what, I struggled when I was a kid before. It feels like that could help a lot of people if they just broke down the walls just a little bit. Not completely. You don't want to enmesh with people. You want to have that professional relationship, but I still feel like I could have made more progress faster if people in front of me could have just opened up a little more.
I spend a lot of time thinking about what you're talking about in the field. We call it lived experience, and this idea of sharing about yourself to create connection. The clinicians, they're trained actually not to do that. Self-disclosure is something they're trained against. Yeah. I do see a shift in the field, and I do see folks who are clinicians and who are clinically trained who are embracing that. So I think if you're going out there looking for clinicians, maybe that's something you look for or ask for is like, do you value lived experience? How do you use a lived experience?
I never thought it was my responsibility. I'm like, you're the freaking paid professional,
Right.
You figure it out. Like, this isn't my job.
Yeah.
I would get angry.
No, rightfully so. I don't think there's any, I think that didn't, you're a little indignant. You're like, hey, you're supposed to get me to open up. Like, how do you do that?
I'm paying you hundreds of dollars an hour and you're just going to fucking sit there and do nothing? That's completely unprofessional.
You're not the only one who thinks that way. And I spend a lot of time thinking about this. It's like that power of sharing about yourself in the right ways, honestly and authentically, but with the right intention and the right focus and the right amount to get that person to go, oh, wow, you're human just like me. Like, you've had this journey to get here and sit in this chair and be paid hundreds of dollars an hour to help me think about what's going on with me and heal. I really appreciate what you're sharing, Dave. I think it's a really important evolution in mental health and helpers, and I see it shifting in good ways, but I also see it shifting slowly.
We don't expect you to go on camera and share how you're feeling to the world like this.
No.
This is just to sort of give you an idea of even people who look like they have their shit together struggle. Even, I would say 5 years ago, I would never share this on camera. I wouldn't publish this. There are two reasons why I do that. One is because I don't want people to struggle in silence like I did. Seeing this might actually save a life. That's what makes me want to do it, is because I feel like if you see someone that you can connect with in any way, maybe you're a male, maybe you're an engineering nerd, whatever it is, maybe you're none of these things, but you just happen to stumble across this and you're just hearing this randomly, but maybe you feel like, oh, I'm not alone. But the other thing too that helps me do this is I'm essentially retired. I don't have a full-time job. I never need to work for someone else again. I don't have to worry about my career. And if you are in a place where you have to worry about your career, you have to think about how these things you say in the world might affect that. We see this happen all the time. People get canceled, people get fired for saying even the most innocuous things, let alone sharing about potential mental health issues. And I feel a responsibility for the people who don't have that power to do that, to stand up and say, here's the way it really is out there.
Yeah.
And no one can come and take away my job, take away my income because I said that. Thankfully, we live in a society where ostensibly it's a free society, but we have to self-censor because we're worried about the implications. We might be punished, maybe not by the system formally, but by mob mentality to say that's not good. We don't want you out here saying these things. It just feels like I have this power where I don't have to worry about repercussions. And I think there's a lot of people out there who might want to say these things and don't feel like they can because they're worried about repercussions.
When you're sharing that, I think about warm lines, anonymous, confidential, or crisis hotlines like 988, things that you can Google very readily, but confidential, 24/7, places you can reach out to that are very aware of the stigma, right? And the potential reaction that even family, loved ones, work. And that's a very real concern. There's literally someone like you, Dave, and me on the other side of that line who went to school or trained or focused on this is what they want to do. They really want to talk to you. They really acknowledge everything and understand on a deep level everything we're talking about, if not even more. And they want you to call. They want you to reach out. They want you to share. And they don't want to tell anybody about it. They're just there to listen to you. They can listen to you as much as you want to share. But that feeling of like, you're accidentally going to share the wrong thing at the wrong time to the wrong person. You're right. That is a very real thing.
When you're opening up and sharing, we want you to do it with people who are safe in confidential spaces, and there are plenty of those out there. That's where you should start. I am optimistic that, I'll get through this. I have before. You grow and you have enough experience and you have enough iterations and reps of this thing. I've got tons of support, Jules included. I've got my partner. I've got my brother, my best friend out in New York City. I've got a good friend up in Seattle. I have my friend that I play tennis with every week. I can count on two hands, at least, the number of people I can reach out to. And I'm blessed for that. But I've also worked hard to make that happen.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of friends from my before times, like my college friends. And they're great friends, but they're not ones I would necessarily open up to about these kinds of things, because that's just not where our relationship ever has been. And that's fine. There probably are resources I can put in the description around this. We can put the crisis lines there again, because you don't need to be in a suicidal crisis in order to call a crisis line. I just want to emphasize that. You can just be struggling. You can just need someone to talk to. That's okay. You're not doing it wrong. Don't think you're doing it wrong. Don't think, I don't want to call because I'll take up resources from someone who really needs it, or do I meet the bar? Right. These are things that I thought, and I just want you to say, fuck all that and just make the call.
Yeah.
If you're struggling and you need to talk to someone, just call. That's why they're there. They are the first line of defense. And if they're going to refer you off to someone else, to a warm line, they'll do that. They'll have plenty of resources. So don't censor yourself when it comes to opening up and sharing.
It's like a net, right? They're there just to catch, and then they'll sort you out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When you dial 911, it doesn't have to be, is this really a life or death situation? You don't know. It's just like for a medical emergency, you're not the one who has to decide whether or not this is life or death. Get the professionals on the scene. If there's any chance that it could be an issue, you want to get professionals involved as soon as possible. Yeah. And that goes for mental health issues as well. Resources in the description. If this resonated with you, or you think someone else might resonate with this, please share it with them. That's the whole point of this. That's why we're putting all our time and effort into this. We're not earning money on this. We just want to reach people. So share it, like, subscribe. We want everyone in the world to live a happy, healthy life. It starts with you. So we'll see you next time.
See you next time.